Today we're going to talk about cutting and assembling a box. This will be a fairly quick video because I've actually done most of the hard work already. So before you do this project, you probably want to roll your slabs out ahead of time and let them stiffen up. Mine are actually a little on the stiff side. I left mine probably an hour too long. I think I rolled them about 3 hours ago. Got kind of distracted in the house and came out, and they were also sitting by the sunny window. So they're pretty stiff, kind of breakable. So leather hard, maybe a little too stiff, but they'll work just fine. So I rolled my slabs out a while ago, and then I've cut the different sizes for my box. So you need to do a bit of planning ahead of time, and I'm going to do 2 variations here for you today. I'm going to do one that is all 6 sides are the same size, and one is going to be sort of longer and not as deep as it is long. Does that make sense? I also went ahead and I decorated some ahead of time. So these, I don't know if you can see those. There's 4 different trees on here. These are just some rubber stamps I have. So I decorated them and then let them dry, because once they're leather hard, it's hard to stamp into it. And once you assemble it, it's hard to stamp into it. You can always add some decorations to your finished product. If you want to cut out some shapes and stick them on, that's fine. But first you're going to use your cutter. Mine does not look like yours. Mine's a homemade jobby. I gave all the nice ones to you guys. But what it is it has a wire on it that will do a 45-degree angle like this to give it a beveled edge. And to do that, you want to make sure you pick the one that's the 45-degree angle. And what you will do is, well, I made some paper patterns ahead of time for this one. So this one I did 4 of the 2 walls and top and bottom, and 2 smaller ones for the ends. So I just used this and as a template and cut my squares out at first. And don't need to do the whole thing because it's not my actual one. So I've cut out the shape first, and then I do the bevel. And to do the bevel, you want to just line this up so that the block of wood is against your cut, so that the clay is touching the wood in front of the wire. And then if you drag it through there, holding it steady here, you drag it through and it makes a nice beveled cut. Okay? So first you cut out your shape, and then when you have the straight edge, you go ahead and cut the bevel. And this cuts much better when it's leather hard. So just roll out your slabs ahead of time, and then when you come, I let them get leather hard, and then I cut my shapes, and then I cut the bevels later. These ones I did cut into the squares earlier so I could center the stamps and make sure the stamps were going to work. Sometimes the stamps stick to the clay and make a hole, so I wanted to do this. I did the stamps while it was wet. I cut the squares, then I did the stamps, and now when it's leather hard, I'm doing the bevel. So if you pre-decorate, what you need to make sure of is that you turn, which one didn't I do yet? In that you turn your decorated part face down so that the smaller part of the bevel will be on the inside. Okay? If you do it the wrong way, your bevels won't line up. So I'm turning the decorated side face down in order to do my cuts. And I already did the others, just so the video wouldn't be quite so long. Now, another thing to think about is if you don't want to make a lid on yours, if you just want to do the 4 sides and a bottom, say you were going to do it like this, then you want to leave one of the top edges just flat so you don't have the bevel and it can just be flat. So if I wasn't going to put a lid on this, I would have bevel, 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 and flat. But I am doing a lid, so I did all of them beveled. And then before you construct it, it might be easiest to get your pieces all laid out edge to edge. You could even go ahead and score them. And especially if you're doing a top one without a bevel edge, then it's good to lay them all out ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and score my piece. So there's my bottom. So I'm doing mine as a puzzle box. Because these edges are beveled, if this was going to be your lid, you could just create it as a beveled edge and it would sit down in there. But I'm going to attach this one and then I'm going to cut it open later, kind of like a puzzle box lid. So assembling it can be a little tricky because you're trying to do all your pieces, but you can, if you get them all lined up ahead of time, you can do the water. And I'm actually going to wet all the side edges here as well. And then start by pressing that edge in. Why is that so tall? All right, I messed up on my pattern. And then my last piece. And should be doing this on top of some paper. And then I'm gonna bring this over, square up my edges. Being careful not to squish it because I don't have that top piece on yet. And then putting my top piece on. And if it's a little soft, you can always take some plastic or a paper towel or a piece of paper, something in there. So I'm going to stick this plastic bag in there just to help hold that up a little bit as I close this up. And once you have the air trapped in there, you can put a little bit more pressure on the seams as you clean them up. And spend some time cleaning those seams, and then you'll come back a little bit later, not too much, because it's already dried quite a bit. If you're doing this with fresh clay that you've wrapped around a form, you need to leave it a little bit longer. But take some time, clean up all these seams, and then you can cut it open. So there's my rectangular box. Set that aside for a few minutes, and then do my square one. Now my trees, because I've made a design on them, I need to make sure that they will all be facing the right direction. So I'm going to lay them all out first. So this one is going to go here. Okay, and then fitting those bevels together. Not worrying too much about each corner yet. I just want to first get them to stand up. Then I can come back and press those corners together. And again, make sure that all of my decoration is going in the right direction. And again, I'll clean those seams up a bit more later. I'm going to put my lid on. Of course, you can add various other parts, handles, a knob on the top to take the lid off. You could put handles on the sides if you, depending on how you've decorated. And then I'm going to close this part up. Seal it. I didn't put a bag in this one, but it's pretty stiff. I don't think I need anything in there to keep it from caving in. And once you get the air trapped, it gives you a little bit of pressure to work against as well. So take a little time. I'll sculpt something, maybe a leaf or a tree. I'm going to spend a little time on this bottom. Now, if you want to get really technically correct while you're building it, you can put coils on the inside. Myself, I don't usually bother. Can clean up the seams a little bit more later when we open it, or if you feel the need, you can put a coil in later as well. And then once you get it sealed up, you can even use, you know, a sponge on the corners. And I'm coming along, I'm kind of squeezing the two edges between my fingers as I'm going along there, putting a little bit of pressure. And making it look nice. Okay. I look forward to seeing your fancy boxes.